You're also most recently author of a piece that was published in Compact magazine, Black Professor Trapped in Anti-Racist Hell, which has engendered a lot of discussion, and we thought we might take that up with you here, if you don't mind. The article's got a lot of play. I've had a couple of friends send me reprints saying, I was in the Telluride Association program when I was a kid. It's a great thing, and this is disturbing and whatnot. So tell us about, your experience.
I was teaching in this program for elite high school students, students with extraordinary abilities from all over the U.S. and beyond. The program had post-2020 reconfigured so that the focus was no longer on a sort of great books type curriculum, but on anti-oppressive studies and critical Black studies. Those were the two tracks that now exist in the Telluride summer program. It struck me as a great opportunity to think through, what are the ideas animating Black justice struggles? What are the experiments happening about imagining new worlds and so on? But as part of this program, I witnessed this sort of growing toxicity on the left. It seemed as if the program was taking the spirit and vibrancy of justice movements and reducing it, flattening it into statements that the students were just supposed to repeat. And we couldn't have that kind of deep, searching discussion that could allow students to make up their own mind and to deepen their commitment to intellectual life and to pursuing justice.
So it was a pedagogical dispute at the end of the day that you ran aground of. That is, you wanted to have these kids come to conclusions with which your antagonists might have agreed, but you wanted them to reach them through a process of deliberation, and they wanted it to be dictated, as it were, to be nailed to the wall, and people would then know what to think.
Yes, yeah, and I mean, I think everyone in the situation was in an awkward position, right? The various figures I describe in the article were also themselves victims, right? We were given a task. They were given a task to communicate this anti-racist curriculum and implemented it in a way that I wasn't happy with, and I thought shut down seminar discussion. But it was ultimately these sort of broader forces in the nation, and then specifically in the Telluride Association that resulted in something that was actually not a seminar happening, right? And I think we can all appreciate the richness of what a seminar can be, where we all come in with different assumptions. All of those assumptions are challenged over time. No one ends where they started. And we see that there's an unfolding of our own understanding of self and world that happens in the seminar.
Vincent, this is what everybody wants to know, and I think I would not be responsible if I didn't ask. And it's very simple. If I had been teaching that seminar, or any seminar, but no, that seminar, and Keisha had demanded that certain changes be made, my answer would have been, Keisha, I know where you're coming from, but I'm running this class. It's going to go the way I want to run it, and I'm not going to accede to your demands. And I'm very sorry about how this is coming off, but if it doesn't work that way for you, you're going to have to go work with someone else. And I have spoken. What everybody wants to know is why you bent at all. Why did you feel that Keisha needed to be adjusted to in that way?
One of the exciting things about the Telluride philosophy, which was not necessarily my philosophy or the students, but the organization's philosophy, is that students should be empowered with this sort of radical democratic authority to decide things themselves. And if the majority of students want something, then that's what they get. I'm staying neutral on whether that's a good or bad thing, or whether it could be good if it had more constraints or more of a framework. But this is what the organizational philosophy was, and
so it's part of a tradition.
Okay. So what happened, Vincent? The seminar blew up somehow, and you ended up getting canceled or something. I mean, what happened?
So the students the students had a list of grievances claiming that I was perpetuating anti-Black racism. They had learned about these sort of abstract principles of anti-Black racism. They didn't have any substantial racism around them to apply those principles to, and so I was the only sort of or the instructors of the seminar were the only sort of outsiders to which those principles could be applied. It seemed like when that kind of claim is made, you are perpetuating anti-Black racism. It's expecting an apology or some sort of course correction. One of the demands was that we switch from seminar-style instruction to lecture, which seems very ironic in various ways as well. I reached out to the Telluride Association leadership and said, now, as an organization, you need to step in and say, this class is supposed to be a college-level seminar. This is what a college-level seminar looks like. That's why you're here. That's the purpose of your summer experience. The Telluride Association was not willing to do that, and so the seminar ended prematurely.
Well, it is student-governed, right?
Yes, and the alumni board is all young alumni. They're usually in their 20s or so. So there are all sorts of, there's a lot of susceptibility to the currents of the time for good and for ill.
Well, you talk about irony. I mean, having heard you for the first half hour or so of our conversation, I find it exquisitely ironic that you would be accused of anti-Black racism.
It does seem like one of the things that the left has to work on, right? That we need to be building allies and reaching out to folks who might have underdeveloped or not just not thought so much about political views, and cultivating the virtues and sensibilities that can help us work together in a struggle for justice, rather than suspecting each other or personalizing disputes.
That whole episode, to me, it's so sadly ordinary, right down to the fact that the Telluride powers that be wouldn't do anything about it because it involved Black people. It's so craven, and it's so unreflective, and it's so condescending to, in a way, all three of us and all Black people to suspend judgment that way just because it's about racism, and because they're afraid that an apparently rather intimidating person. I'm beginning to picture what how Keisha must present. They're afraid of her. They're afraid of getting yelled at by her, and they're afraid of what she's going to put on Twitter. That is not the way.
Vincent wants us to bear in mind that Keisha is caught up in the same problematic that everybody else is, and
that's one way of putting it. But whatever she's caught up in.
Yeah, I do. I think Keisha is a victim here as well, and it's a product of the dynamics of the time, the larger cultural dynamics of the time.
Okay, so John, what do you think overall about the Vincent Lloyd story?
Well, seems like a great person, seems like a very smart person, but honestly, I would have to say that in terms of a defense of that domination-focused way of doing academic inquiry and the tenets of the new way of looking at social justice, I can't say that I was moved to feel much differently than I do now. And in a way, I found him useful for presenting what the other side is, because he wasn't doing it out of anger. He wasn't trying to beat anybody over the head. And you could see that he is bright, he's nice, he's well-meaning, he is not a naive person at all. There's no demonizing people like that. But he is definitely, and I would say this in front of him, he is a beautiful instantiation of a frame of mind, which in a different spirited person can be used quite abusively. But I do not saddle him with that description.
Well, I will admit to having been impressed by him, even though we disagreed about a lot of stuff. I did do a little research on his background, and he's an accomplished scholar. He's a serious, thoughtful person. I thought he's an academic. One of the things I read about him, he's being interviewed. He says, Black studies as an intellectual enterprise within the humanities in today's university is like French theory was back in the 80s, Derrida and Foucault and those people.
You couldn't
because it's a fertile ground for, and then I read on a little bit more, and I realized this is a world that will make sense to somebody in an English department or something in a university, but it won't make much sense to anybody else.
It's a localized world. Yeah, definitely. Wow. I really, though, it's this academia that I got myself into Sometimes I wonder whether I would do it again if I knew what was coming. Because, linguistics has in some of its subdepartments, which are increasingly influential, that framework of person. And that's not why I'm interested in things. It's not that I don't understand social justice, but the idea that you apply those hardest firing brain cells to that one particular concern, to me, it would be like talking about nothing but taxes all day. It's just there's so much more. And I guess that makes me either a dilettante or a baby or not significantly concerned with social justice. But that idea that academic thought is being a warrior for battling domination, just that. For me, it's always just, and what else? Really, is that all? And I'm very open to the idea that I'm just missing something, that I never got over being 5 years old or something. But whenever I run up against that, I'm so disappointed.